The island of Sodor, like a lot of islands, has been around for a long time. And like other islands, it has nice green fields and sandy yellow beaches. But it also has windmills and coal mines, and docks where goods and visitors to the island come and go. And like all islands, the island has its own set of tales. Who's that puffing down the line? Why, it's Thomas! Hello, Thomas! Oh, hello there. Welcome to the island of Sodor. Tales from the island of Sodor. Teamwork. It had been a few days since the accident on Gordon's Hill, and things were tense. Everyone kept a close eye on the Sodor Garret, and in turn, the Garret and their crew remained silent. While it did bring a nice bit of peace for some of the engines and workmen, it was clear that the tense atmosphere could not go on. So, are we not going to address the elephant in the room? Asked Rowan. His driver shrugged. Why, this is the quietest the yard has been since they got here, replied the Garret's driver. Rowan sighed. Well, yes, but look how miserable they are. And it's clear that they still haven't worked out their issues, replied Rowan. His fireman sighed. Well, there's not much we can do. It looks like this is something they'll have to figure out themselves. Unless you have an idea, said Rowan's fireman. Rowan just huffed. Oh, I wish Edward were here. I'm sure he'd know what to do. Meanwhile, at the Vickerstown Diesel Works. You're lucky that the parts are still intact. No matter. Now we can get to work. After I test these parts, to make sure everything is working, I'll need you to come back in a few days to deliver them. The engine and her driver were puzzled. Deliver them where? Asked the engine's driver. I'll tell you when you come and pick them up, replied the man. Okay, but I don't know how much longer I can do this. I mean, I'm taking a big risk with the possibility of being caught by the wharf manager, said the engine. Don't worry, you'll have help soon enough. Are you nearly done, my good man? Just about, sir, replied the workman. Excellent. All according to plan. Now run along. Like you said, you don't want to raise suspicion with the wharf manager. The engine and her crew agreed. They were quickly turned around and set off. Now, any more questions? No? Then back to work, said the man, and he left. I never thought I'd see the day where we diesels are working with a bunch of steamies to scrap steamies. It seems very... what's the word? Counterintuitive? Wait, no. But, you know what I mean, said Class 40. Yes, but the thing is, the reason for these steamies to be scrapped is far more deserving than the ones on the mainland. When this ends, I'll hopefully be put in a museum and shown off to everyone as to who really is Sodor's premier express engine. And if not, well, if I go down, at least I'm not going down alone, said the B-12 menacingly. Class 40 couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy by his comments. Meanwhile, Rowan had made his way to Knackford Station. He had just pulled into the yards when he saw Edward. He was talking to the workman named Thomas. Oh, hello, Rowan. How are things back on the branch? Asked Edward. Rowan sighed and explained everything. Oh, I see, replied Edward. No matter what we've said or done, nothing can make those guys cooperate. And I thought Bill and Ben were insufferable when they got into squabbles, huffed Rowan. Edward sighed. I like to help, but I'm needed here until the container yard is completed. And that's after Hank is repaired, said Edward. Rowan and his crew were surprised. Wait, what? Yeah, it's all hands on deck. And even if Hank hadn't been damaged, he was still going to need help anyway, replied Edward's driver. Rowan and his crew just groaned. Thomas looked at the Garrets, and then the K2, and thought for a moment. Well, if you can't help them, maybe I can, he said. The two engines and their crews were taken aback by this. Are you sure about that? Asked Edward's driver. Thomas chuckled. I'm sure. I've grown up with triplets, and I know the trouble that they can cause, and how to deal with them, he said. All I need to do is file a transfer request, and we're good to go. Rowan, Edward, and their crews all looked at each other with worry. Okay, Thomas, if you say so, replied Rowan. So the arrangements were quickly made. The guard blew his whistle, and Thomas was soon on his way to Walsworth Station on Rowan's return goods. Meanwhile, the Garret and their crew were resting in the siding, feeling sorry for themselves. What have we done? That's the 5th time you said that this week, Will, huffed Corey. Will sighed. Well, what else am I supposed to say? This is all our faults. Well, actually, it's all our faults. You're right, fireman. And now... sighed Will. The fireman sighed sympathetically. But before he could say anything, a whistle echoed through the yards. It was Rowan. Afternoon, all, said Rowan. The Garret didn't respond. Look, I know things seem a bit, bleak now, but I'm sure they'll improve, eventually, said Rowan's driver. Will snorted. Not likely. You're not the one who's in hot water with the fat controller, and seemingly can't work with the rest of themselves. Rowan and his crew smiled. Well, that's why we've come to help, said Rowan's fireman. The Garret and their crew looked at the fireman curiously. And how do you intend to help us? Asked Grady. Oh, we're not going to be the ones helping you. He is, said Rowan, gesturing to the workmen. This is Thomas. He's come up from Knapford to help around here for a while. The Garret and their crew were puzzled. Rowan continued. He's also heard about your troubles, and thinks he can help you guys. Finished Rowan. The Garret and their crew didn't know what to say. But before either of them could say anything, Thomas spoke up. Thank you, Rowan. I'll take it from here. And with that, Rowan set to work shunting his trucks. While Thomas went to talk to the Garrets. So, I understand that you lot have been struggling to cooperate? Asked Thomas. That's one way to put it. Can you explain why? Well, you see, Hey, he was talking to me, so... Okay, one at a time, said Thomas. The Garret just huffed as they quieted down. Good. So, it seems like we have a lack of communication. Something tells me this might have been a bad idea, said Rowan's driver. Just give him a chance, said Rowan. Besides, what other options do we have? Rowan's driver reluctantly agreed. A little while later, Thomas and the Garret were in the yards. Now, the important thing is to communicate and listen to what the other has to say, said Thomas. Indeed. Now let's go and, yes, you were saying, Corey? Thank you. Now, as I was saying, I think we need to shunt those clay trucks first, and then the container trucks second. So it'll make dropping them off at Vicarstown easier, said Corey. That actually isn't a bad idea, said the driver.
Indeed. What do you think, Will?
Asked Grady. Will shrugged.
I guess we can do that.
And with that, the Garret set to work. For the next few days, Thomas worked with both the Garret and their crew to help them learn how to work together. Come on! More steam! Barked Will.
I'm giving it all I've got,
said Grady.
Yeah, well... we still need more power. So, fireman, could you lay down some sand? Please.
With pleasure.
Right then, we should get those trucks and...
Well, actually, I think we should get those trucks and...
Well, I think we should let our driver take this one,
sighed Will. The driver smirked. Indeed you shall. And I think we should go left.
Ha! Yes. Let's get those trucks shunted,
muttered Will. Aside from a few slip-ups, the mood around the yards and on the branch line as a whole seemed to improve. Sir Topham Hatt would take notice of this.
Well, I can see things are definitely improving around here.
Thank you, sir.
But don't think you're fully off the hook. However, if this good behavior continues, then your career on this railway is no longer, on the line, so to speak.
The Garret and their crew gulped as Sir Topham Hatt strode away. But Thomas was smiling.
Well, once you look at that, you lot are now back on his good side.
But Grady sighed.
Yeah, but for how long?
Thomas smiled.
Just remember what I've been telling you. Communication is key. Just remember that, and things will start looking up,
reminded Thomas. The Garret and their crew agreed. The next day, as the engines were getting steamed up, they heard a whistle. Is that?
I think it is.
It was Sheffield.
Sheffield, welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. And I see they didn't just fix you up, said Rowan's fireman. Sheffield smiled.
Yes, the Fat Controller decided that it was high time for an upgrade to help with banking trains up the hill, and he also decided to repaint me in whatever color I wanted. So, I decided to choose a livery that I thought was very smart,
replied the tank engine. Rowan chuckled.
I couldn't agree more. That livery does look very smart,
agreed Rowan. Sheffield smiled.
Indeed. Now, I take it that our new friends have sorted out their differences, given the place is still standing?
The Garret sighed.
Yes, Sheffield, we have,
huffed Will. Yep, hardly any arguments or accidents, added the Garret's fireman. And how did you manage that? Asked Sheffield's fireman.
Oh, it was easy. Well, with the help from Thomas.
Tank engine Thomas?
No, workman Thomas from Knapford,
explained Rowan.
He's done wonders in helping both the Garret and the crew learn how to work together.
Sheffield was still unconvinced.
I see. Well, actions speak louder than words. So, I'll be watching.
And with that, he buffered up to his trucks, his driver coupled him up, and he puffed away. The Sodor Garret just huffed.
We'll show him that we can work together, won't we, guys?
Huffed Will. Yes, we will, agreed the driver, but the fireman thought otherwise. Whoa, slow down, guys. Remember, It's not a competition. Let's just do our work with little to no fuss. That'll show him that you guys really have changed," said the fireman. Will and the rest of the Garrets and the driver reluctantly agreed as they set off.
Well, this will be interesting to watch,
said Rowan. "Agreed," said Rowan's driver. For the next few days, things went well, and the Garrets and their crew continued to do their best to work together. But Sheffield still had his doubts and kept a close eye on them. "Ow! Hey! What was that for?" "Sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention." "Yeah, well... just don't do it again," said Will. "See that? They have improved. At least a lot more than when I first got here," said Thomas. Sheffield just huffed. Meanwhile, Thomas the tank engine was on his way back from Vickerstown. He had just rounded a bend when he saw Lady! Lady nearly jumped. "Lady, is that you?" Lady and her driver looked at the tank engine anxiously.
Yes, it's me,"
replied the red tank engine.
"What brings you all the way out, here?"
"Special delivery of stone from Falkirk to Vickerstown. What brings you lot out here? You're a long way from the wharf."
Lady froze.
Yes.
Well, you see, his thing is, I'm taking a special, train, yes, to Killaban from, Vickerstown," she stuttered. Thomas and his crew were puzzled.
"Okay, but why you? I'm sure the wharf is piling up with goods and trucks," said Thomas's fireman. "And on top of that, where's your brake van?" asked Thomas. Lady gulped, but before she could respond, her driver spoke up.
"Simply because we were the only ones available on such short notice,"
he said. And before either Thomas or his crew could say anything else, the signal changed and Lady raced off. "Well, that was odd," said Thomas's driver. Yes, it was," finished Thomas's fireman. You've known Lady longer than us. Is she always, this jumpy?" asked Thomas's driver. Thomas sighed. "No, not really. She only started acting like this about a year ago. Everyone from the workmen to the Fat Controller have tried to figure out what's up with her, but so far she hasn't said anything," he explained. Thomas's crew were worried. Back on the Wellsworth branch, Sheffield and the Garrets were resting in the sheds when the yard manager arrived. "Derek has stalled on the hill. I need one of you to give him a push."
"Well, we'll do it,"
interjected Sheffield. The Garrets looked at the tank engine closely. Since getting back from the steamworks, Sheffield had been insistently taking on nearly all the banking duties on his own.
"Are you sure you don't want some help?"
asked Grady. "We can take the..."
No, I'm fine. Now, come on, driver."
The driver reluctantly pulled the lever, and Sheffield set off. The Garret and their crew could only sigh as they watched him go. It wasn't long until Sheffield arrived at the hill and buffered up to the train. "Oh boy, this is a very long train. Maybe we should have let..."
"No, we don't need their help. Now come on,"
huffed Sheffield. The guard blew his whistle, and they set off. The two engines huffed and puffed up the hill, but as they neared the top, there was trouble.
"Oh dear, my engine!"
groaned Derek. He struggled, but it was no good. Sheffield tried to keep the train going, but it was far too heavy, and soon the train came to a complete stop.
bother?
The guard telephoned for help. Meanwhile, the Garret was in the banker siding when the yard manager arrived. Derek has broken down, and the train is far too heavy for Sheffield. Could you give them a push? He asked. The Garret was worried.
I suppose so,
said Will nervously. You guys can do it. Just remember what I told you, said Thomas. Will and the rest of the Garret and their crew smiled as they set off. When Sheffield got the news, he just huffed.
Well, let's see if they can actually do their job this time,
he huffed. His crew just rolled their eyes as the Garret buffered up to them. Alright, just remember what Thomas said, said the fireman. The guard blew his whistle, and the cavalcade set off. Clouds of steam billowed into the air as both Sheffield and the Garret huffed and puffed up the hill.
Come on! Come on!
We can do it! We can do it! Sheffield just huffed. More steam, driver! I've got the regulator open all the way, replied the driver.
I doubt it. At this pace, we'll stall on the hill again,
huffed Will. Now listen here, I think we should stop arguing and focus on getting this train to its destination, said the driver. Will was puzzled for a moment, but then remembered.
Yes, driver, of course. Now come on!
Sheffield was a bit surprised by this, but remained silent. The two engines huffed and puffed up the hill. And almost before they realized it, they found themselves cresting the hill. The train raced down the other side towards Marron Station. When they arrived, the station master was waiting for them. Well done, all of you, he said. It wasn't long until Jeff arrived to take both Derek and his train to Vickerstown. And Sheffield and the Garret set off back to Walsworth. None of them said a word until Sheffield's driver spoke up. Sheffield, isn't there something you want to say?
Thanks for helping us,
muttered Sheffield. The Garret smiled.
You're welcome,
huffed Will. Indeed, added Corey. It would take a few more days until Sheffield finally accepted the Garret. Despite a few arguments here and there, the Garret and their crew managed to prove themselves. A little while later, Sir Topham Hatt came to see them.
Well, I've heard and seen all I needed. Well done to the five of you, he said.
Well, thank you, sir, but you should really thank Thomas here.
Yes, thank him for helping us,
added Grady.
Is that so?
Sir Topham Hatt turned to the workmen.
Well done to you as well, my good man.
Thomas smiled.
Thank you, sir. Just trying to help.
Sir Topham Hatt chuckled.
Indeed. If your father could see you now, he would be proud of you.
Thomas just beamed. Everyone was sorry when it was time for Thomas to leave. We'll miss you, said the Garret's driver.
You're always welcome back,
said Rowan. Indeed, and once again, thank you, added Will. Thomas smiled.
Don't mention it, and don't worry. I'll try to get another transfer soon,
came the reply. With that, he boarded the train. The guard blew his whistle, and the goods train set off back to Knapford.
Look, I don't know what you're talking about. Honest.
Calm down. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just asking. The other night we heard a whistle, and it just sounded like yours. So are you sure you weren't at the junction last night?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay, but I'm sure we...
That's enough. Now, if you excuse us, we need to get back to work.
And with that, the red engine set off. What was that about? Asked Logging Loco. I'm not sure, Dash, but something just isn't right. You're late.
Sorry, we had to make sure we weren't being followed.
Well, no matter. At least you're here. I need all the extra manpower I can for my project.
Which is?
Patience, my friends. You'll find out all in due time. All in due time.